Well, I don't know what you think, but I think in episode 4 of this Cossor radio repair, I think I actually worked really quite hard. Anyway, after all that hard work, I just thought we would take a nice deep breath and relax and unwind. Relax and unwind. So we're on 900 at the moment. By my estimates, we've only got about another 16,000 to go. Now, as I unwind this, I have found that it keeps getting stuck, so I think it's got some varnish on, but I have found that if I just put some IPA on it now and again, give it a squirt, I think it starts to dissolve the varnish on it, and it does make it much easier to come off. Before it was kind of just catching and getting stuck. So as you can see, I've just gone ahead and I've just knocked up this very crude coil unwinding machine, and I'm actually unwinding it by hand at the moment because I'm just getting a feel for it. I think if I try to mechanically unwind it using a drill or something, this wire is so fine, I think it's quite likely I'll just end up snapping it. So just while I get a feel for it, I'm just taking it a little bit easier. So you can see the little counter that's counting away there, and for those playing along at home, I just bought this counter module. I bought it off Amazon, and they're quite cheap. It was, how much was it? It was about £9. You can get them on eBay even cheaper than that. And what I've actually done is I've got a reed switch here. In fact, I'll just stop this. I've got a little reed switch which you can't see, it's just tucked down here, and there's a magnet on this rotating disc. So every time this disc spins round, it runs through the reed switch, runs past it, which closes the switch. And then this counter module has just got a set of screw terminals that you connect a switch to. So very, very simple. Now, I've got to admit, if I was going to keep this for the long term, I probably wouldn't use a reed switch. I'd probably use some kind of proximity switch. Because the thing about a reed switch is it will wear. Oh, actually we just broke the wire there, but I actually think I didn't break it. I think that's our breaking the wire. Oh, that's interesting. So we said that this wire was open circuit, so I'm going to put this piece of wire on one side. I can see the end of it looks discoloured where it's broken. So that's where one of our breaks was. I completely forgot what I was saying. Yeah, so I've actually used a reed switch here, and the thing about a reed switch is they don't really fatigue, but the contacts do get damaged over a period of time. So if I was going to make this coil unwinder more of a full-time project, I would probably use something like a proximity switch or maybe an optical interrupter, because I think that would be more reliable rather than having a mechanical contact. Because even though the life of these switches is very long, well, for example, there's going to be more than 17,000 turns on this coil, I estimate. So even if the switch contacts have got a long life, if you had a lot of coils to unwind, it certainly wouldn't last forever, would it? But I think it's going to be good enough to get this job done, so let's just keep going. Now, this wire is actually thinner than a human hair. It's really thin and it's really fragile. So as I say, I'm trying to unwind it really gently, because the last thing I want to do is snap the wire or maybe lose it in the bobbin, because sometimes when the wire breaks off you can't find it again, so I'm trying to be as careful as I can. In fact, that wire's just broken there. Well, it didn't break, it just came apart. So I do think that this wire has got multiple breaks in it, and there, we've just hit one of them. That's annoying. So with 5,176 turns in, and we've hit the, what do you call it, the centre tap? I'm not sure. It's not actually in the centre of the auto transformer. It's actually towards one end. So it makes me think that if that was about 5,000 windings, I suspect we've probably got another 10,000 until we've unwound it all together. Now, as I've been unwinding it, the wire's actually broken multiple times, and it actually seems to normally break around this end of the coil. And if I look inside the coil here, I can kind of see like a white discoloration. I can't really say more than that, but that's where it seems to be breaking. It looks as though this thicker wire here looks as though, I don't know if it's if that's a different piece of wire. Yeah, that looks like a piece of tinned stranded wire, so I'm assuming that if we just unwind this, it should actually be soldered onto the thin winding, which it is. It's soldered on. Better make a note of that. 5,187 is the centre tap. So I'm kind of suspecting now we've got another 10,000 turns to actually fully unwind this. So I'm just going to keep unwinding it. Now we've actually got through the centre tap point, it actually does seem to be unwinding a lot easier. It makes me think that this is going to be really hard to actually wind these back on again. The wire is just so incredibly fragile. It might be that the new wire, with it being younger, it might not have worked hardened like this is, so it might actually be a bit tougher, the new wire we put on. But yeah, I'm not holding my breath. Well, so far I've managed to generate this huge kind of clump, pile or ball of copper wire, and yes, I'm sure that would be a serious choking hazard to small children or cats. Don't know what we're going to do with that. Well, even I think this video is getting a bit boring, so I'll bring you back when we've unwound a bit more. So hopefully, I think we're nearly at the depth here of unwinding this coil, because I can see the brown leader tape underneath it, so that should be the last thing on the core. So if I just bear with me, we should be able to get this off and then we're done. I think I mentioned it earlier, what I've been having to do is, because I think there's some glue or solvent on it, I've had to keep wetting it down every now and again with a drop of acetone, because I think there must be some varnish on it which is locking these windings together, but the acetone just melts it enough so I can get it undone. Otherwise the wire just keeps breaking. Right, hopefully you can see that. So that's that again, that's a thicker leading wire. That's a lot thicker, that. And then it's got the very fine winding just soldered onto it. Well, you may have noticed that I've rather naughtily turned round our LCD counter here, so you can't actually see what's written on it. Can you see a reflection in a valve? No, I don't think so. Yeah, so that was quite cruel of me, because what I want to know, leave it in the comments, how many windings are on this coil in total. So I don't want to know them to the centre tap or anything like that. I just want to know the total number of windings, and you never know, we might do a special prize to whoever can get the closest to the number of turns on the coil, so please leave it in your comments. So here's the bobbin core from our transformer that we've just recently relieved of all its wiring. Well, of course, having taken all the wire off it, we've actually got to put some wire back on it now, and I'm hoping what's in this box might help us do it, but I'm not completely sure, so let's open the box and see what we've got. And for those of you playing along at home, I actually bought this on Amazon, and it's got the name of the company, AM Tools Limited, London, England. I think these are made from China, and if you go on Amazon and eBay you can find lots of these coil winding machines. And this one I paid, I think it was about £22 for it, not very much money. In fact, an amazingly little amount of money, and I was somewhat surprised that you could even find coil winding machines on Amazon and eBay, because it seems like, well, it's not the sort of thing you can imagine many people wanting to do. So I think I mentioned earlier, I've got some uncertainty whether or not we'll actually be able to use this thing, because I wasn't exactly sure how big it was, and I've got a feeling that our core will be too small for the mandrel on this coil winder. But this is what we've got to try, and I thought for the price it was worth trying it. It was you know, it's cheap enough, £20. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm sure we'll find a use for it in the future. So I can immediately see now, just looking at the size of this, it's not going to be appropriate, is it? This is designed to wind a much bigger transformer. What does the thing look like? Well, it's got plastic gear wheels on it, which that's not unexpected for the price. It's got a tally counter here, and it's got a winding handle, and I think some people have said it comes with a pulley wheel, so you can actually attach it to an electric drill, but I can't see one. There's certainly not one come in the box, so I'm guessing we need to turn that round. Turn that round, screw it onto there. So the gears on this are plastic, and it does feel quite cheaply manufactured, but I wouldn't complain for the price. I mean, the paint finish is awful on it, isn't it? It does have a tally counter, so when you're actually putting your windings on like that, you can see it going up there. I think it also has a couple of speeds. I'm not quite sure how you adjust the speeds on it, but I believe it is possible to adjust the speeds, or I thought it was anyway, but having looked at it now I can't see how you would adjust it. Certainly I think some of them online say that they are 2-speed. Now I'm guessing this top part here just allows you to manually wind it. Obviously it's all a bit loosey-goosey because it's not bolted down to the bench. Does the reset work? It does. So here's a little reset knob here, so when you want to reset your count you just press that and it zeroes it. So I think if I was going to use this I'd probably replace this counter mechanism though with one of these electronic counters, because I think a lot of this roughness that I'm feeling in the mechanism, I actually think it's in this counter mechanism that I'm feeling. Certainly the wheel that does the counting, again the plastic moulding is really poor on it. I can feel the edges of the teeth, they're kind of sticking out at all shapes. So I think if you bolted this down to your bench and you had a transformer of a suitable size, that would probably be okay. I'm trying to feel, is that a bit bendy? No, it's pretty stiff, that would be okay. Not exactly sure what the gear ratio is on it here, but if I've got to put, you know, more than 15,000 turns on this coil, I'm not sure how long it'd take. Let's see how long it takes to put 100 on. Okay, that wasn't too bad. I guess probably an hour's winding, maybe you get your 17,000 on. So I'm not going to abuse this too much. It was £20. I'm sure for winding the right type of solenoid coil it could probably be invaluable. But you can see the problem we've got. This mandrel isn't going to fit through the hole in our coil here. It's you know, it's almost as big as our core. So yeah, a bit of a fail on my part, but okay, 20 quid, no great shakes, is it? Now I've been giving it some thought how we can wind these coils, and I thought one of the options would be to use the milling machine, because this milling machine here, it does have variable speed, so we could actually control the speed quite precisely, and it will also go up to about 2000 RPM, so we could certainly get plenty of turns on it. But I think it would be a little bit hard to start and stop it. This machine has just got so much power that I think we'll just rip the wire apart instantly, so I don't think that would work. And also stuck in the corner there, we've got an old lathe, so we could also try to use that, but I think we'd have much the same problem. So I'm afraid the only thing that I can really think of is for us to sacrifice an electric drill. And I didn't really want to do that because this is quite a useful drill, although it's a bit grubby. It's not had that much use, although annoyingly about a week after I bought it, it fell off a set of step ladders and I managed to snap the clutch arrangement on it, but it does still work. But I think, yeah, I think it calls for a sacrifice. This is all I've got. You know what, sod's law, about 3 weeks ago I threw away 2 cordless drills at work because the batteries were no good. And yeah, well, doesn't that always happen? Yeah, you have something and then you throw it away and then you need it the week after, well, 2 weeks after. But the main problem I think I'm going to have with this is actually trying to hold it, because there's no surfaces I can really grab hold of very easily. So I'm going to give that some thought. So I'm going to take the cover off it and see what I can come up with. Okay, well you can see we've got the Dewalt drill now down to a knickers and bra with only a minute amount of protesting and the power of a hacksaw. So there we go, classic first date territory. So now we've actually got the drill in bits, what we've got to do is we've got to find a way of clamping it down, and I think what we're actually going to have to make is some form of cradle. Now the first thing that I tried is I tried to utilise the actual case itself to try to make something to actually hold the spinny bit, but yeah, this plastic is very waxy and it's just the wrong shape. You can't actually get a purchase on anything, so yeah, the case had to come off. So what we're going to do is I think we're going to make some kind of like U-clamps, and we're going to clamp this down to some form of bed that we're going to make out of wood. So we're going to clamp round the motor and also the gearbox, so I just need to establish what these diameters are. So that's like 44.5, it's the gearbox, 44.5. And what's the electric motor part? That's a bit bigger, that's 45.8. And I think we'll probably get 2 clamps around the motor, so I'm going to go ahead and cut another of them, I think. Let's do that. So all these clamps that I'm making, we do have to try and keep everything in alignment with itself, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of just mark them off against themselves. This is the one I just drilled a hole in the centre, so that's got a hole in it now, and I'm just going to do the same on this one. So for this one we need a radius of 22.25, so I'm going to set that up on here. That's 22.25, and I've got a little bit of paper somewhere. That will probably do. So when I drilled through these clamp blocks before, I couldn't get all the way through with the drill, so I went as far as I could, and now we're just going to finish it off. But we can use the holes that were left previously to guide us, so that'll be easy enough. So in theory now our clamp bolts should go all the way through here. And then when we cut the centres out, we'll be able to clamp this around the motor and the gearbox assembler. And I'm hopeful that we will that should secure our drill then within our woodwork. Hopefully, fingers crossed and all that. So we've gone ahead and we've made our clamps here, and I made 3 of them. I don't know if we'll get all 3 of them on, but we may do. And I'm not particularly proud of them. My holes aren't particularly round. I thought I'd have done a better job with this fret saw, but I only bought that fret saw today to do this job with, actually, because in the future I'm planning on actually making a radio cabinet, an old wooden cabinet, and of course you want to cut out the frets on the radio cabinet, so I thought I'll buy a saw. And anyway, it turns out it's harder to use than I imagined, but I guess practice like everything else. So let's go ahead and see if we can assemble some of them. What I think we'll probably do is we'll probably pack some foam rubber or something inside these to actually you know, make a really tight fit on here. But they're going to go something like this. In fact, that one feels a little bit too tight on the motor already, so we're going to need to ease that a little bit. So let me do that on the fly if we can. Yeah, I think that's got it. So if it wasn't clear what I was trying to do, hopefully it's getting a bit clearer now. These are actually the bottoms. I've got these upside down. And then all 3 of these are actually going to mount on a baseboard itself, so that's the next thing I have to make. And I don't really mind if the glue goes everywhere, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to tighten this up, but I just want to put some nuts on it and tighten it up just a little bit, just so that while the glue sets it holds everything tight. And then what we'll do is we'll come back, we'll take these caps off, and I think I'll put some very thin rubber under the top side, so when I tighten it down fully, when it's finished, it will pull tight. Well, certainly that's my little idea anyway. And then this final one on the gearbox. Well, shall we see if the motor still turns? Oh, got some lovely spark action there. So I'm just going to put a front on here to neaten it up. Okay, more practice required, I think. So there we go, I've gone ahead and I've just drilled a hole in the bottom of here to take our wire out that's going to power the electric motor up, and I'm going to drill a hole in the back there to take the lead out. Well, I just thought I'd take a picture of the devastation which is my workshop. Let's face it, it looks like an explosion in a hardware shop, doesn't it? God, I wish I could be tidied. So when I started putting this coil turner together, what I decided was I was going to get one tool out, use it, and then put it back again and keep everything nice and tidy. Well, that lasted about, well, maybe 4 or 5 seconds, and then the chaos just exploded and expanded exponentially. Oh God, I wish I was tidier. So I actually think we're on the final leg of this now. I'm actually just clamping, let's call it a headstock arrangement. If it was a lathe, we'd call it a headstock. So I'm just now clamping the headstock onto this baseboard just to stop everything jumping around. So there you go, here's our Mark 1 winding machine. Now unfortunately there's a couple of little problems with it. I really wanted to embed the counter into here as well, but there's absolutely no way I could get an output off the back of the motor shaft, or in fact anywhere really, so we're going to have to put an external revolution counter on it, which is a shame because it would be neater if we could embed it somewhere, but I just don't think we can do that. So I'm going to have to make something that sits at this end, which is actually going to count the turns as we put them on, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it is. And we've also got the remaining trigger control here, and what I intend to do is to try to embed this in some kind of a foot pedal, because I think I'm going to need my hands free to actually wind the turns onto the coil. So what I'm making here is it's going to be a tail stock, because we need to support the end of the mandrel when we're turning our coil. It probably wouldn't matter for a small coil, the one that we're turning, but I think if I was doing a bigger transformer it would probably need the extra support. And I've also drilled another hole because I'm going to put a Hall effect proximity switch in here so we can actually count the number of turns on the coil. Well, I'm back inside the electronics workshop now because hopefully we've finished all that detestable woodwork. But what I have got to do is wire up our electric motor here because we haven't seen it turning for a while, and I'm hoping that it will still turn. So I think it's about time we went ahead and just wired up this motor. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to operate the thing from a foot pedal, but I haven't built that yet. So what I'm going to do is just keep the wiring tidy. I'm going to use this 2-pin connector. I'm going to fix this down here, and then we can just plug in the foot pedal assembly when we want to use it, and then disconnect it when we want to transport it, because I think that'll make things easier. So yeah, that's what we've got to do now. Got a bit of a mismatching cable sizes here. I'm hoping it's going to be thick enough, this cable I've got. I'm hoping there won't be too much current going through this motor because there shouldn't be a huge amount of torque on it. It's not like I'm trying to drill through a brick wall, so I'm hoping it won't draw anywhere near its full load current. Well, fingers crossed that's the idea, because unfortunately this is the thickest cable I've got to hand, and well, it's actually considerably smaller. We may have to end up changing that. I think what I might do is I'm also going to put a switch on the top of here, which will very easily allow me to change the directions that it runs in, but I'm not going to do that just now. Mainly because I haven't got a switch. I kind of also think that perhaps I won't want to run it in the reverse direction very often, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll wait and see if there's a need to do that. Of course I can always actually change the direction by adjusting the foot pedal unit that I build, so that would be another way I could put the switch, but I just thought it would be nice to have a, you know, just a toggle switch on the top of it here that we could just, you know, reverse the polarity to the motor. Oh, I think I've just discovered the most blunt Stanley knife in the world. I don't think that looks too bad, do you? So this is the bottom of the drill that we saved, and it's got the on and off switch, which has got a speed controller built into it, so we'll connect that one up to that one, and blue wire to that one. And as I said earlier, I'm going to build this into some kind of foot pedal because I'm definitely going to need all my hands to actually wind this coil. So that goes on there. Hopefully we can plug this into here now. Screw that up there, and we should be ready to wind. pretty good, eh? I'm impressed anyway. Now here's the old bobbin that we moved from the transformer. I'm just going to take that off, and for our first run I don't want to risk something going wrong and destroying the bobbin, so we'll just take that off. The idea is this goes in here, tighten the chuck up. I've machined the other end down to fit into the end of our bearing. And this black piece of plastic here, it's going to have a magnet glued onto it, and that's what's going to be the interrupter for our counter. So does that spin? A little bit far away that, isn't it? I think we might have to make some adjustments somehow. Yeah, got to come a bit close with our switch. I think I better not go too fast, I think my magnets might ping off. So here's the counter module we saw previously, and in theory it should work with this, well, I think it's a Hall effect sensor, so unlike the reed switch that I had, it shouldn't actually wear out. I think the reed switch would actually last a fairly long time, but I'm hoping that this switch I'm using here, with it being a Hall effect, it's not got any moving parts in it. And what I think we'll do is we'll mount a bracket on there so we can hold it. Anyway, let's see if that works. Can you see that? Is that in camera? I don't know, is it? Hopefully it is. Let's see if it counts. Yep, and it is doing. Ooh. Magnets fell off. That was bound to happen, wasn't it? Now one of those magnets has bounced off my head and wanged its way across the room somewhere, so we'll probably find that stuck to something in years to come. Well, I don't know about you, but I think I'm going to have to call it a day for today. This Cossor radio and rewinding this transformer, it's been quite a lot of work so far. So I'm sorry everybody, this week we haven't managed to wind our interstage transformer. It's just been a lot of work building this winding jig. I've been working on this pretty much every night after work, and there's just not enough hours in the day, is there? But hopefully you'll bear with me till the end. I think the end is in sight. But until next time, as always, thanks very much for joining me in the workshop. I do enjoy your company, and I hope to see you again very soon. But until then, bye bye for now. Bye.